have this on the longer cooked chashu. Delicious. What you're going to do is you're going to take like one strip of these and you're going to pierce the skin and all the meat all the way around, like all four sides. You can use a fork, you can use a knife, but be very, very careful using a knife. Most people just use a fork and just kind of pierce, you know, and there are also piercing tools if you go to like a kitchen supply store, but I think a fork works just fine. So you're going to poke it all the way around. You're not going to remove the skin because it turns into this amazing kind of gelatinous layer as part of your chashu. So you don't really want to touch this at all. You're not going to trim anything. You're just going to, you know, poke around on it. And then you're going to cut it into 3 slices just so that they fit into your rice cooker better. And also into your small frying pan. I have already started this cooking process on my stove in the back because it does get pretty hot and it does get like kind of splattery with the oil, and it also gets a little smoky. So I had the fan going full blast while I was doing this. So when you make this at home, make sure that your windows are open and you have your vent on full blast because it does, you know, it's kind of like going to a Korean barbecue place. You're going to have a lot of smoke coming out from the meat. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of restart this. And while we're waiting for that to restart, we're going to go ahead and make the braising liquid that goes into your rice cooker bowl. So to a half a cup of water, which is 100 milligrams, 100 cc's, you're going to add another 100 cc's or half a cup of soy sauce. Japanese soy sauce bottles have gotten very advanced in technology where these bottles now have like an inner seal, so it kind of like the whole thing stays vacuum, so it doesn't go bad as easily. Let me turn this down just a little bit. And so to the half cup of water, half cup of soy sauce, you're going to add a quarter cup of mirin, which is the sweetened sake. And then you're going to add another quarter cup of regular cooking sake. It doesn't have to be expensive stuff. Good, just regular sake is fine that you can buy at most supermarkets. And this goes straight into the bowl of your rice cooker. To that, you know, my trusty garlic and ginger that's already cooked through. Oh, I'm sorry, already grated. And you're going to add. Now, if you want to do measurements, it's going to be a tablespoon each. If you don't have these tubes, then and you want to just take it out of the jar, it's 1 tablespoon each. And you are going to also add a couple of shakes of Chinese fried spice. I like having this for like, you know, the roast pork I can use for snacking and putting on bowls of rice. For ramen, I would maybe just omit the Chinese fried spice because it's a pretty strong kind of sweet flavor that you might not enjoy in a bowl of ramen. Go ahead and flip these. So that can keep warming up. And so you've got your liquid braising components: sake, mirin, soy sauce, water, ginger, and garlic. Now you're going to add, and the Chinese spice, which you can or can't, if you can leave it out if you don't want that kind of sweet, sickeningly sweet. Some people think Chinese spice, the spices that are in Chinese spice add a little sweeter element than you'd like, but it's amazing for just snacking Charsiu, like barbecue Chinese pork. But you might want to leave it out for like ramen. So into the braising liquid, you're going to add 5 tablespoons of sugar. I'm using a cane sugar here, but you could totally use white sugar for this. And then you're going to add like 3 large green onions worth of, you're going to leave the whites off. You're just going to use the green parts. You're going to cut them into like manageable sections, and that goes in there as well. And the green onions aren't for eating. They're meant to just kind of remove that kind of that gamey scent that might come from pork sometimes. So to that, we are going to add our pork. And all that pork is sliced, well, poked, sliced, salt and peppered, and just sauteed on all the sides on a frying pan. And this pork already has plenty of fat, so you don't necessarily need to add fat to your frying pan unless you're not using a nonstick pan, in which case you'll definitely need to add some oil to that. You're going to be putting these pieces in the rice cooker skin side down. And just kind of, move the green onions kind of in between all those pieces. And then you're going to add something called an otoshibuta. And otoshibuta is literally translated. Otoshibuta means dropped lid. Otoshi means to drop. Futa, right, is as a lid. So otoshibuta traditionally used to be this wooden disc that had like a little handle on it, and it would go on top of like your steel kind of like pots. It would go over like your clay pots, and it's really just meant for things to not overflow. So in a rice cooker, especially when you're using a braising liquid that is sweet like this, if it splashes, it gets on the lid, it kind of gets everywhere, like on the edges, and it's just kind of not very clean. So using an otoshibuta, the modern version is you can just use a piece of foil. And it doesn't matter which side of the foil you're going to have facing up or facing down, because this isn't for baking, this is just a preventative lid. Just kind of make it into a circle. And then that just goes right on top of the pork. And it honestly just prevents a lot of splashing around. You can also use parchment paper for this if you don't have foil. But you're basically just adding a lower lid than the main lid of the cooking device. Then all you're doing is all you're pressing is just a regular cooking cycle. And then once you've let it cook, it usually takes about an hour, you're going to let it stay in the keep warm. It automatically diverts into keep warm unless you turn it off. So just allow your rice cooker, after you've done the cooking portion and it tells you that it's done cooking, just keep it in the keep warm section for like an extra hour or 2 tops. And it'll allow the pork to get even more delectable, and the meat, it just completely falls apart. And when you slice it, when you put it in your mouth, it's gonna like just completely melt in your mouth. So we're gonna let this cook for a while. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this all up, and then when we are done, I'll show you what it looks like when I slice it up, and then we'll do a taste test. So we'll be right back for that. So we've left the pork belly cooking in our chashu braising liquid, because I guess if you're not cooking rice, you're technically braising this in a rice cooker. It's not a pressure cooker, so it's not the same as doing this in like a pressure cooker or an instant pot or anything like that. This is a slow braise, takes about an hour, and then you just kind of let it sit in the keep warm setting for another hour or longer. So what I've got here are two cooking lengths, and then we can kind of see what the difference is between just letting it cook for the hour plus an hour at warming, and this version, which is cook for an hour and leave it on warming for, I think I left it for like 4 hours, so that it just kind of, I think my assumption is that this will be much softer. This is amazing by itself, but I think that the longer you braise, any cut of meat, it's going to start falling apart and be even more luscious. So let me open this up. And you can see that the otoshibuta, the drop lid, did its job, because you can't see it on the screen, but like the lid on the inside is nice and clean. All you see is a little condensation from the steam, but the otoshibuta did its job by kind of keeping a lot of the movement that happens while it's cooking the liquid. Toss that. And let's go ahead and take one out. And like I said, you're going to see all these like green onion bits, but you're going to leave those behind. You're not going to eat any of those. Oh, it looks so soft and juicy. It's so like squishy too. So let me go ahead and close this. And we will try slicing some of this up. Oh, and it slices so well. Oh, I can't. It's so good. And it's like, you can see where the soft bits are. I'm salivating. Like, it looks so good already. I'm going to go ahead and take out one of these that have been cooked even longer. And we'll slice that up as well. I am not left-handed, so my chopstick holding doesn't look as good. But you can also use tongs if you are not chopstick proficient. Oh yeah, and this one slices just as easily. It just has a darker ring on it. Those of you who are into like barbecue and things like this is not a barbecue dish, but you can tell how like you can see just the color comparison, in just that you can tell that this has been cooked a little bit longer, so it's a little darker. This one's only been cooked for like a total of 2 hours, so it's still light in that kind of caramely color. I'm gonna try the freshly made one first. Joy. It's soft. The meat has been cooked all the way through. You can taste the Chinese spice, but it's a lighter flavor, right? So this would actually be the one that you only cook like for a total of 2 hours, is actually probably really good for like ramen dishes, because it's a light flavored pork belly. This that has been cooked for like a total of like 4 or 5 hours. The flavor is definitely more pronounced. I would use the longer cooked version for like just regular snacking with like a, I don't know, a glass of beer or a chuhai, or yeah, just as like a proteiny snack just to have. Or I would chop this into like little cubes and use that as the pork in my fried rice. Like I said earlier, I promise I will do that recipe one of these days. Um, it's amazing how it's both basically the same ingredients, just the length of time changes the flavor profile. But man, it's good. They're both so good. And a very typical presentation for something like this would be to have this with some what we call shiraga negi, which is, so you know how we use the top part of the onion, the green part, for cooking inside the rice cooker to kind of take away the kind of gamey, porky smell that can sometimes come from a pork product or a pork dish. And then what you do with the white part, the bulb part, is you remove any semblance of like the green. So like you cut it in half, and if there's like some green on the inside, you toss that. And you cut them into like really, really thin strips. So it looks like white hairs. And that's what shiraga negi means, is white hair, green onions, scallions, negi. And it's got a light, it's not quite as pungent as like just a regular bulb onion, but it is a great kind of add-on to have with chashu in general. Just don't want to drop any of them. That little extra crunch is so good. Some places that you go to will have shiraga negi, but they'll also have, excuse me, really thinly, kind of like matchstick cut cucumber. You just kind of want something that's light, cuts through some of the fattiness because it is a pork belly. There's a good layer of fat on there that you're eating. So you want something that's kind of like crisp and light and kind of counteracts that heavy fat feeling. I have this on the longer cooked chashu. Delicious. It's absolutely tasty. I now have enough to make like a couple of fried rice plates and probably garnish some ramen and just have some as a snack. It's a good high protein snack if you don't have it with like rice or with a bowl of ramen. It's really, really tasty. I really hope that you give this a shot, much like a lot of my recipes that are where I say, I hope you give this a shot. Of course I do. But this in particular is so good, and it's so easy to make. And if you can get pork belly where you are, I highly recommend you give this a shot. I think that you'll find that it's a tasty, tasty dish. And I don't know how much more I can like just kind of keep saying how great it is. But this keeps in the fridge for about a week, if it even lasts that long. You can actually slice it like this and actually put it in a sandwich. Gosh, it just, or like one of those like those bao buns. I think you would really, really enjoy this dish for that. One of these days I'll actually do a presentation again of the fried rice, but also of like how to put together some ramen. It is really, really hot in the desert right now, so maybe we'll do something that is called hiyashi chuka, which is a chilled ramen dish. That actually might be a lot of fun to make for you.